All right, everyone. Hello and welcome. It's a Tuesday, so you know what that means. It is College Hoops Live, powered by Rhythm, of course. I'm Josh Appelbaum. Excited to be with you guys once again. We're going to let people trickle in a little bit. I know it's kind of a sleepy Tuesday, and a lot of people might be disappointed. No March Madness tonight, but don't get that upset because there are other college basketball games that we can get down on the end. And the beauty of Rhythm, and what the beauty of Rhythm is that it doesn't have to be just March Madness. We have AI models here and predictions when it comes to the NIT, the CBI, all these tiny little conferences here, even though they may not get, the shine, the excitement, the luster of regular March Madness in the NCAA tournament, still money-making opportunities here. So we have some plays here for tonight that I'm excited to share. My guy King Nebuchadnezzar, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. We have a few plays here in the NBA as well. So looking forward to kind of showing different features of Rhythm, whether it's, of course, college hoops, which is on everyone's mind, deservedly so right now. We got NBA. I got a play on a late game tonight, a total that caught my eye. I'm looking for some points in that one. And then also, aside from a few plays for tonight, two of which are in the NIT, one NBA, so three overall. I also want to have a little bit of an early preview for the Sweet 16 because we have all these lines that have been out for a couple days now at this point, and we're seeing some line movement on some of these games. So I want to kind of look at where the market is moving for some of these Sweet 16 matchups. And then, of course, we're going to try to find some actionable edges when it comes to, hey, the betting market says this line should be 7, Rhythm says it should be 5, or Rhythm says it should be, 8.5. So we're trying to look for basically an edge. And I think it's so important when you're betting on sports. If you don't feel like you have an edge, to me, it's a layoff opportunity. You don't really want to force anything when you're betting on sports. You only want to get down if you feel like you have an edge. So the definition of an edge, you hear it all the time, but what does it actually mean? It means that you feel like you have an advantage over the sports books. Now, on the one hand, the sports books are super, super sharp. They have these incredible, high model algorithms and formulas that set these incredibly sharp power ratings, which then can, when you get the two power ratings for any two teams, you can basically plug them in head to head, and it'll spit out what the actual spread should be, kind of a rough outline, and then of course the odds makers will apply some kind of tweaks when it comes to home court advantage or the weather or specific head-to-head matchups or injuries, and then that will be spit out to the betting market, which really then the betting market kind of takes over. Lines move based off of smart money. The public obviously will kind of fall into the age-old favoritism and bias when it comes to wanting to bet high-powered teams with star players. You always have that in mind. But the beauty of Rhythm, which I always want to point out to this, College Hoops Live, of course, the whole point of this live stream every Tuesday is to kind of show you guys how to use Rhythm to your advantage. So I mention it all the time, but I'm looking at what the betting market is doing. That's where I was born and raised in the world of this industry of sports betting. That's kind of my niche. I am not a professional handicapper. I am not setting my own power ratings. I am not telling you, Maryland should be a 6-point favorite and they're 7 in the market. My angle, which I've kind of, found this niche over time, a long time, I might add, it was not something that happened overnight, is that I'm looking at what the betting market is telling me. I'm looking at what a line opened at, how it's moved up or down, how big of a move, how small of a move. And then I'm comparing basically that movement toward what the betting splits are telling me. So percentage of bets in dollars on both the side total, money line, depending upon the sport. Baseball is coming back here, so we're going to kind of transition back to betting money lines and totals. We're talking college hoops and NBA right now. It's more spreads and totals. But the whole point being is, I'm looking at the market first, and I'm using Rhythm as my cherry on top. And the beauty of Rhythm is really that there's no bias involved. These are all data-driven projections and predictions that then we can either just tail or we can kind of use as a cherry on top where we do all of our work, with our own personal style of handicapping. And kind of the great thing about sports betting is, we all want to be sharps. We all want to be professionals, but, I kind of make this analogy sometimes like, you might throw a really tight spiral, a great ball, a football in your backyard playing with your friends. Does that mean you can be an NFL quarterback? No. So like we all want to be sharp professional bettors, but does that mean we can all set really incredibly accurate power ratings and just play our discrepancy plays? No. So the next best thing, in my opinion, is learning how to read the market. Look at what the market is telling you. The market is driven by smart money from respected bettors. So if if we're not professional bettors ourselves, we at least can kind of learn how to read the nuances of the betting market in terms of how the line is moving, the tickets, the ticket counts. I lean a lot, of course, on betting system matches. So specifically, whether you and I have this age-old battle of like trends versus betting systems, where trends to me can be overblown. Sometimes they're not always predictive. Whereas, and really, trends are specific to specific teams. Whereas betting systems, the beauty of a betting system is that you can plug in any two teams as long as they fit the criteria. That's an actionable edge over time. So, the easiest one of all time is like windy unders. When it's windy out, the wind blows 10 miles per hour or more, football totals cash at a higher rate to the under. These are these little edges where you can plug in any two teams, they fit the model. So I'm looking at the market, how the line moves. I want to take a contrarian approach against the public. I want to be with the smart money, whether that's a reverse line move, when the betting line moves in the opposite direction of the betting percentages, a big steam move, when you see a sudden change in line movement across the marketplace, a 50-50 line move, a dog to fave line move, a bet discrepancy play, a fade the trendy dog play. There's all these different terms that, kind of developed over time. But the whole point being is, if you can read the market, to me, it's the next best thing as, trying to be a professional. If you can't be a professional, at least figure out which teams the professionals are on and try to get the numbers, of course, that they're getting down on. But then again, now that we have Rhythm, we're kind of our own professional bettors because we do have all these power ratings that we can go off of and hopefully take advantage of. So with that being said, as we have a bunch of people filing in, I got King in here, getting ready to get locked and loaded for a big slate tonight. But as we let everyone trickle in, I want to hit on a few things. So I want to first mention and ask you guys a question. How is your March Madness going? I'll come out and say I'm not having a great start to March Madness. We've had some kind of the revenge of the public here once again, where historically, if you look at and a lot of my databases that I use go all the way back to like 2003, 2004. So it's almost like a 20, 22 year sample at this point. If you look, from like 2005 to like 2015, March Madness was all about dogs. You could almost blindly take the dog in the points, and most likely you're going to have a winning and successful March Madness. And the whole point being there is, March Madness is one of the most heavily bet sporting events of the year. You're going to have an influx of public betting. How many of you have people in your office, with office pool, your friend who can't even tell you a single, mascot or a single player on any team, yet maybe they win their office pool because, again, there's the unpredictable element of March Madness. But then also, sometimes the biases can really kind of hold against you or make it harder for you when you're trying to bet on sports because the public is just going to bet the bigger name schools, the higher seeds. They really haven't, grinded, throughout the regular season in terms of what we've been doing here, whether it's my All Systems Go sports betting pod or of course the Rhythm live streams that we've done. So they're betting based on their gut instinct and bias. And historically, that's not what you want to do because your biases are oftentimes wrong. They're not rooted in data. They're not rooted in hard, cold facts and information. They're really subjective based upon your own, kind of gut instinct. And, I always mention this too, but like people are always like, go with your gut. When like in reality, usually your gut is wrong. But I think to me, people say that because they want you to kind of pick what you're going to do and then kind of not get blamed for it if you end up losing. So that's always something that is kind of important here. So I'm actually going to pause this pod for 1 second because I do have my wife calling me real quick. So hold on 1 second. Hello? Hey, babe, I'm doing a live stream right now. Can I call you back? Yeah. All right. So sorry, you saw behind the scenes. Anyway, where's I going with that? I was getting ready, letting everyone pile in here, but hey, that's real life. Sometimes the wife calls you and you're like, every Tuesday at 4, I have this live stream. Yet she calls me at 4, but what can you do? Can't blame the wife for checking in. Anyway, all that being said, just to recap here. To me, we have, and what I was trying to get at is from 05 to like 2015, even 2020, it's been really great for dogs. Dogs, typically have been covering 53, 54% of the time. Last year was a chalky March Madness. We've also got a really chalky start to this March Madness. Now entering the Sweet 16, favorites are 28 and 24 against the spread, 54%. That means if you're basically playing every favorite, you're doing pretty well right now. So that bodes well for the betting public. We have seen unders do pretty decent, which is a good sign for contrarian bettors, 28 and 24 as well. Another 54% win rate here. But I've been surprised, and you guys might be too. Where are the Cinderellas? Where are the upsets? Where is the Princeton going to the Sweet 16 a few years ago? Where's your NC State out of nowhere? If you're playing a chalk bracket, you're probably loving the start to March Madness. But if you expect and you get excited by the unpredictability, you really haven't had that. There haven't been a ton of upsets here. So maybe we start to see it in the Sweet 16. Maybe it's just another chalky, and basically the evolution of chalk, and where that comes from is you go back to the days of horse racing back in the day, 20s and 30s, where old school betting on horse racing. They would write the names of the horses in chalk, and they'd always write the favorite, whatever the minus number is, and people would always bet the favorite. So they'd wipe it off and they'd rewrite it. So the name of the favorite would always be in chalk dust, which is where the term chalk comes from. But again, it was also a very chalky NFL season, which it wasn't great for contrarian bettors. So I don't know what's going on. Either the favorites are better than the odds makers are giving them credit for. We're not getting the upsets we're looking for. But again, if you're the type of bettor who likes to bet against the public like me, again, has not been a great start here to March Madness. With that being said, again, we still have opportunities here to make some money. So I want to start off with a few plays that I have for you guys here for tonight. And then we're going to get into some early leans for the Sweet 16. And I call them leans because we still have a couple days here until the Sweet 16 starts. And we are going to have a live stream on Thursday. So we'll actually have those games ready to go, and we'll see the movement between now and today. But with that being said, let's start off looking at some games for tonight, because we don't have March Madness, but we do have something to bet on. We have the NIT. So the NIT is different from March Madness, of course, but we can bet on it just the same. We can get a winning ticket, hopefully, that pays out the same, just as a play on March Madness would. So the two I want to look at first, or the first one that I want to talk about here today is, let me find it for you, an early matchup here, Tennessee Chattanooga and Bradley. So let's set the stage. We'll kind of talk about this matchup, and then we'll pull up all of our recommendations here from Rhythm. So the first thing I like to do, click games. We're now on our NCAA men's tab. We're under games. Always mention this. Look at the timestamp here, 3:39 p.m. So that is what, half hour ago, 45 minutes ago. Let's hit refresh. Let's get the updated predictions here based upon how the market is currently moving, how it has moved, and does that create a bigger edge from the recommendations that Rhythm has. So now that we have our updated predictions and recommendations, we get the most up-to-date information. So setting the stage for this matchup, this is your NIT quarterfinals. We have Chattanooga against Bradley. So Chattanooga comes in 26-9 on the year. They just beat Dayton 87-72 in the second round. Easily won that game out right there, a 2.5-point home dog, actually. Here's the other thing about NIT. These are not neutral sites. These are actual home courts. So we got to kind of factor that in when we're looking at these games. You look at Bradley, they are 28-8 on the year. Just beat George Mason 75-67 in the second round. They won that game outright as a 5.5-point road dog. So both teams are coming off wins in the second round as dogs outright. So what do we see across the market here? Well, this line is moving toward Bradley. This game opened, it's moving toward Chattanooga. Bradley opened this game as high as a 4.5-point home favorite. Again, true home court for Bradley. The public is saying, give me Bradley all day. Bradley has a better record. They're at home. They're the higher seeded team in this matchup. However, even though you're getting nearly 2/3 of bets on Bradley at DraftKings, the line isn't moving toward Bradley. The line is moving toward Chattanooga. This line has fallen, Bradley -4.5 down to -3.5. So if you can see here on the spread, we have some recommendations, Chattanooga and the points. If you look at this one here, we actually have Rhythm predicting Chattanooga winning this game outright by a couple points. And we also have Chattanooga, winning like basically 2.8 points here. So both recommendations are on Chattanooga. These should be pluses, not minuses, if that's tripping you up at all. But I like this. To me, like if you're playing a side, it's Chattanooga here, because the betting market is aligning with Rhythm. Rhythm is telling us to play Chattanooga. And if you notice, we don't have one recommendation Bradley and one Chattanooga. They're both on the same side. That's the first thing I look for. I don't want any conflicting models. I want both my model and my Rhythm pre-built model to be basically leaning in the same direction. And if we can apply both models on the same side with what the betting market is doing, that gives me even more confidence to get down on a game. Now, I will mention these are some caution plays. It's not a recommended play. Basically, this isn't an automatic tail. This is a, I would classify this as a lean or kind of a play where, we like this side, but maybe not every single factor is lining up perfectly to play that side. But even so, we have a couple of recommendations here on Chattanooga. Now, if we dig a little deeper, a couple of things to like about Chattanooga as well. The Mocs, by the way, one of the great nicknames in college hoops. Line movement. Now, when you look to these NIT games, they're not like March Madness. March Madness is by far and away, the most heavily bet because everyone's excited. They got their brackets. There's the excitement of March Madness that everyone wants to, participate in. NIT gets overlooked. A lot of people have this stigma against NIT, like, oh, these are the rejects. These are the teams that can't make the tournament. Why should we care? And I don't really get that. As a sports bettor, I don't think you should have, like a disdain or kind of like overlooking a sport. Like if it's there, if it's available on your app, if the odds makers are setting lines for it, as a bettor, you have the opportunity to play it. So I see this a lot, like, CFL, Canadian football, WNBA. There are certain sports that the public kind of like dismisses, and that's to their detriment because these are money-making opportunities. But here's one thing that I noticed. I dialed this up in my database. If you look at the NIT, if you look at just line movement in the NIT, so the line is moving in your direction. That's a product almost always of smart money. Also, the fact that the public doesn't play NIT a lot, unless there's a big injury. These are really moves that are driven by big, respected, sharp money coming in. So teams receiving line movement in their favor, which would match with Chattanooga here, going from +4.5 to +3.5. They're 10-7 against the spread this NIT postseason. That's a 59% cover rate. If you look at in the NIT all the way since 2021, a big 5-year sample, they're 50-31 against the spread, 62% ATS. So going with line movement in the NIT has been a profitable situation. Now, Chattanooga trying to build a case, not just the market, but have an understanding of, okay, where are their advantages? When I'm sweating this game, when I'm watching this game, what am I hoping to see? Well, what I'm hoping to see is a really good offensive team. Chattanooga has the better offensive efficiency. They rank 50th in the country versus 91st for Bradley. Better free throw shooting, 77% versus 75%. They take better care of the ball. They actually they rank as high as 45th in the country and fewest turnovers. The Bradley Braves rank 193rd. So hopefully Chattanooga will take better care of the ball. Then we get to, as I mentioned, our rhythm predictions saying, hey, we got Chattanooga basically almost favored in this game. Tells us we got a lot of value here on Chattanooga. So that'll be my first play. I would lean pretty hard here, Chattanooga and the points. But the play that I made officially is I played this total to go over. Now this is going to get a little bit, this is going to be a little bit wonky, might be a bit confusing because you see here, both recommendations are on this under. We have two recommendations here basically at around 150 and basically like 150.1 almost. So if you want to tail these, all the power to you. But I think when you are using rhythm, you want to kind of make sure that rhythm is matching up with, at least in my case as a data-driven bettor, what the betting market is doing. So rhythm is telling me to play these unders. But what have we seen across the market? A ton of over money has come in on this game. So this total actually opened. It was as low as 149.5. It's now up to 152, 152.5. Now, if you have multiple sports books, which if you're listening to this stream, you better be shopping around getting the best number. You don't want to just have one book because that really is limiting yourself as a bettor. You have to play, like, let's say you only have a FanDuel account. That means you have to bet at FanDuel, whatever they're posting. But instead of just having a FanDuel account, you should also add an ESPN Bet account, a DraftKings account, a Caesars account, a BetMGM, a Fanatics. You want basically more opportunities to pick off better numbers. Because if you're betting, consistently daily or every other day or just a few times a week, there are going to be games where, like, let's say for this game here, 152.5. Let's say this game lands at 152. You play the under, you lose. You find that over 151.5, you win. You'll be amazed. I'm sure you guys know, and you've experienced it before. There's so many times where, these lines are set so sharp right on the number that a half point could be the difference between a win, a loss, and a push. So with that being said, ESPN Bet is still offering over 151.5 on this Bradley Chattanooga over. What I like is that this total rose. It was as low as 149.5, now up to around 152, 152.5. Some books were as high as 153.5 earlier today. I really like the bet split toward the over at DraftKings. 57% of bets, but over 90% of money is on that over. And now here's another NIT little nugget for you. And the NIT overs this postseason are 16-8, 67%. So basically 2 out of 3 games in the NIT are flying over. Now maybe that's less emphasis on defense. Maybe it's the fact that these aren't neutral courts, so they're more familiar backgrounds, which is better for offense. I'm not sure what the specific reason is, but I just gave it to you a second ago. Like unders are 54% in March Madness. Overs are 67% in the NIT. So that's a little nugget that we can hopefully take advantage of, which is why I am playing this over. And also you look at both teams, their path hopefully to giving us an over here would be the fact that they're pretty good offensively. They both have an effective field goal percentage of 57%, and they both can shoot the three. You actually have Chattanooga 37% from three. That's 38th best in the country. And believe it or not, Bradley is the second best of more than 300 schools, the second best three-point shooting team in all of college hoops. They shoot at 40%. So again, even though we have, basically right at 150.5, 150.8, this is a play for me where I'm going to absolutely respect this rhythm prediction telling me to go under. And who knows, rhythm might win this one and I might lose this one. But as a bettor, you got to have a path and a reasoning to play a matchup. And to me, the fact this line is going up, we have these NIT overs crushing it. We have a good bet split. We got good offense. I'm gonna kind of make my play on the over despite this recommendation here to go under. And that's something that maybe I'm making a mistake here. Maybe I should just don't think about it, tail this under. But that's a play I have in pocket, having already played that over. The other game I want to mention. So my first play tonight is that over 151.5 with Bradley and Chattanooga. Next one that I really like, North Texas. North Texas is playing Oklahoma State tonight. This is another NIT quarterfinal matchup. So let's set the stage. We'll talk some line movement. North Texas comes in 26-8 on the year. Typically, they're a March Madness team. Didn't make it this year. They're in the NIT. They just beat Arkansas State 65-63 in the second round, so barely edged by them. Didn't cover, though, as a 4.5-point home favorite in that one. Oklahoma State, though, 17-17 on the year, 500 team. They have played pretty well in the NIT, winning a couple rounds. They just beat SMU 85-83. They actually won that game outright as an 8.5-point road dog. Now, what have we seen across the market for this one? Now, there might be some debate with this game because it's a very short number. This game opened basically with Oklahoma State around a 1 or 1.5-point favorite. The one thing that I noticed, though, is that everyone is playing Oklahoma State here. Oklahoma State across the market is getting upwards of 70% of spread bets. This is also a 9 o'clock game. It's a heavily bet primetime game. And the vast majority of bettors across the United States are going with Oklahoma State. Bigger name school at home. Again, very short number. You'll notice the public always loves like a very short favorite, like a -1 favorite, because it's like, hey, they're at home court, short number. That's just an automatic play for a lot of the betting masses. I wouldn't be so sure about that. I actually like North Texas in the points here. First thing I noticed is that even though vast majority of bettors are taking Oklahoma State here, around 70% of bets, the line really hasn't moved at all. A lot of books that open -1 with Oklahoma State have stayed at -1. You have some ones that went up to -1.5, but then came back down. You have some books that open -1.5 that have stayed 1.5. Basically, every book is either -1 or -1.5. But the important thing to me is that it's not up to 2. It's not up to 2.5 or 3. We haven't seen this line get steamed up toward the Cowboys, which that's what you would normally expect. If a team in a heavily bet 9 o'clock game is getting 70% of tickets, you would assume that the line would move further in their favor because the odds makers are taking in a ton of liability, just an endless flow of public support. Therefore, there's liability. They got to move the number up to make it more expensive to play the popular side, while at the same time, providing a sweetener to take the dog, because they basically want to move the number so that more people take the dog, so that they limit their risk. Because if everyone's playing Oklahoma State and they roll and win and cover this game, that's going to be bad for the book. It's good for the public, bad for the book. But the fact that they haven't done that, to me, this is a line freeze. A line freeze is when you have heavy betting on one side, but the line really doesn't move at all. So you're getting heavy betting Oklahoma State here, but it really hasn't moved off the opening number. That tells me odds makers are really more respecting of the North Texas side than they are the Oklahoma State side. I always like it when you have heavy betting, but the line doesn't move. That's just fishy. It doesn't make sense. Embrace the fishy side, which would be North Texas in this one. Now, you look at North Texas, they're only getting about a third of tickets in a heavily bet primetime game. So even if you take away the line freeze, you got a really good bet against the public contrarian play tonight. If you look at DraftKings, there's a good bet split on North Texas. Only a third of the tickets, but about half the money. So it looks like the bigger, sharper wagers are on North Texas. Now, KenPom has the Oklahoma State Cowboys winning by 1. So if you're going to go North Texas with me, you got to get the hook. There's a lot of +1s out there, but there are some +1.5s. And if they end up losing by 1, like I hope they win the game outright, so it doesn't even matter. But odds makers are telling you off the bat it's going to be close, most likely. I hope it's not. Again, I hope North Texas rolls. But that means for you as the bettor, you can't guarantee North Texas wins and covers, but you can guarantee that if you open up multiple accounts, you can find that book giving you the +1.5. North Texas has some advantages here that jump out to me. Like North Texas is usually historically a really good defensive efficiency team, which again, they are this year. There are actually a lot of offensive advantages here. North Texas has the better offensive efficiency, 107 in the country versus 139 for Oklahoma State. They also have the better effective field goal percentage, 52% versus 49%. Three-point shooting, 36% versus 33%. Free throw shooting, 78% versus 72%. So those are all advantages, in favor of North Texas with that line freeze. Lastly, we pull up our models and predictions here. Again, Rhythm's telling us North Texas should win this game by a point. So I always joke on the All Systems Go pod, which you can always find on my Twitter at Josh_insights. It's on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your pods. But I always joke about the KenPom sound the alarm. King Nebuchadnezzar knows this. Woo, woo, woo. Again, I'm no musical, I got no musical skills. That's not the perfect sound there, but I joke that that's the sound of an alarm. And what that means is KenPom has a team winning the game, whereas in the betting market, they're a dog. So anytime you see that, like in this case, this would be the Rhythm sound the alarm, woo, woo, because Rhythm has North Texas winning the game, when in the betting market, see, King knows, we love KenPom, you're damn right, King. Rhythm knows, or we know that Rhythm has North Texas winning the game, and we can get 1.5 in the betting market. Therefore, to me, that's a valuable discrepancy that we can take advantage of. 3-2 strategies. Appreciate you, man. Good to see you, my guy. So that's my play. I'm going North Texas +1.5. It's a contrarian spot. Everyone's on the Cowboys, yet the line really hasn't moved at all. Some books have even fallen a little bit toward North Texas. So find that hook. We have Rhythm telling us North Texas should win the game. I'm sure I'll have a heart attack if they lose by 1 and we cover. That's all we care. But let's win the damn game, North Texas. That'll be a nice hit tonight. Now, I know this is a college hoops pod, but we have NBA tonight as well. So I want to hit on one NBA game, and then I want to talk a little bit of early Sweet 16 line movement. So we're going to go to, instead of NCAM, we're going to pick NBA. It is going to refresh our odds and predictions for tonight's slate. Updated here, 4:32 p.m. So we got all the up-to-date numbers. And I want to, and again, if you just leave it at the default, these are all the top recommended plays, locked and loaded, ready to go. Of course, I like to go through every single game and try to pick off, basically sharp plays in the market that align with what Rhythm is recommending. So one play that I made in the NBA tonight is a total. It is a late game tonight. It is OKC and the Sacramento Kings. Now, the first thing you're going to notice here, both recommendations here to the under 232.5. Basically, you have a couple Rhythm models where you're right at 231.7, 232. So you're kind of, 232. So you're kind of right on the number here. But this is where I think nuance is needed. Context is needed. If we look at this game here tonight, between the Thunder and the Kings. One thing that jumped out to me when I was looking at this one earlier is you've got a lot of steam toward this over. So this game, Thunder Kings, it opened as low as 230. You're now all the way up to 233 and a half at some shops. Now, I played this earlier today at 231 and a half. So I'm loving the fact that this line is up to 233 or 233 and a half. At this point, it's not as strong of a recommendation. If anything, it's more of an edge toward the under. But I also think you want to kind of get in the habit of picking off good numbers before they move too much. That's always the goal as a sports bettor. So I'll give you the reasoning why I like this over here. At this point, it becomes a harder decision for you as the bettor because the best number there is no longer available. Like, again, I got 231 and a half to the over. That was at ESPN Bet. Now you're up to 233 and a half, which, again, I love. Anytime again, closing line value, CLV, you're going to hear this term all the time. You bet a game at one number, it then moves up or down. If you are beating the market, like the line's moving in your favor, and now you have an edge based off of what you bet, that's a good thing. That tells you got the number, you got the best number available and predicted the market quickly before it moved. Now, if I took the over 231 and a half, and let's say this line is down to, 229, that would scare me. That would tell me that I bet kind of the bad number because I'm now paying a worse price than what is currently available. But anyway, a couple reasons why I like this OKC Sacramento Kings over. It opened 230. At the time, it was 231 and a half. Now it's all the way 233 and a half. 69% of bets on the over, 90% of money on the over. You also look at some analytics that I pay attention to when I'm playing a total, like pace. You have OKC, a pretty quick team. They are number 8 in the NBA in terms of fastest pace, so more possessions, more opportunities to score. OKC is number 4 in offensive efficiency. We all know how great SGA is. I saw today, I think he's minus 10,000, or I forgot the number, but he's looking like a big MVP favorite here, even though Jokic has been great this year. But Sacramento, number 8 offensive efficiency, so both teams are top 10. Sacramento is not great defensively. They're 28th or 23rd in defensive efficiency. Both these teams, though, are good over teams. You have Sacramento 38 and 32 to the over, 54%, and OKC 40 and 32 to the over, 56%. There's also a little fishy because if you look at the last 2 box scores, they've been really low scoring games. Like you had the Thunder just beat the Clippers. I think it was like 103 to 101. Kings played the Celtics last night. I have the Celtics over 58.5 win total, and it's going to come right down to it. So I'm a Celtics fan anyway, but I was able to watch the game with my dad last night, which was pretty fun because we don't get to hang out as much anymore. We were in a wedding in Maryland, and the parents are staying with me for one more night before they go home. But anyway, that was a low scoring game as well. So both the Kings and the Thunder in the last game went way under this number. So yet it opened 230 and it's gotten bet up. That just seems fishy toward the over here. Now, one reason why you might see a higher scoring game, which I hope is the case, if you look at the head-to-head, these last 2 games, these teams played each other. When the Thunder and the Kings played each other the first time, it was a total combined score of 239. That was a 130 to 109 game. They played again. It was a 144 to 110 game. That was 254 points. So maybe you kind of get, some more offense, more wide open in particular because of this matchup, how offense, stacks up against the defense and vice versa. Also, I mentioned I like betting systems. I have 2 good betting systems on this over. If you look at a non-division game in which the over rises, you have seen this angle cash nearly 56% of the time this season. So that's been a good bet historically. So again, if you look at rhythm, you got some angles here to go under. This will play for me where I'm playing the over, respecting this rhythm prediction, but kind of leaning more toward what the betting market is recommending to me. So again, when it comes to these predictions, it's, again, you may not have a lot of time. I'm lucky enough to work in sports betting, so I stare at these numbers all day. Guys like King and 3-2 strategies, maybe you have day jobs and you don't have the time to look at every single game. So you can just kind of go to the top predictions, or maybe you just want to tail the highly recommended plays. But if you do have time and you have your own, kind of approach, you maybe want to use a little context, a little nuance when you're breaking down these games. So those are my plays for tonight. North Texas plus 1.5. I got the Bradley Chattanooga over around 152. And then the OKC over, I got that at 231.5. But now let's go to March Madness, the Sweet 16, and just wet our whistle a little bit. We will do a live stream on Thursday, but between now and Thursday, let's see if we got some actionable edges here in the betting market. So let's go back to college hoops. And by the way, MLB coming soon. Baseball returns. I think it's Thursday. It's this week. Cannot wait. We got the Red Sox over 85.5 win total. Let's go to NCAA, so college basketball. And we're going to go to all games. And we're going to scroll down to the Sweet 16. So starting right here with BYU and Alabama. So I'm going to highlight 5 games that jumped out to me in terms of a rhythm edge. Now, the first one is Maryland. And just so happens I was in Maryland with all of my relatives, and they're all big Terps fans. And you know what? It was kind of hard for me to play the Terps over the last 2 games. They covered the first one against Grand Canyon. They came back in the buzzer beater against Colorado State, but didn't cover. But this is a play where I'm looking toward Maryland in this matchup. King, sometimes up at 6 a.m. looking at lines to make a decision for later. That's why you are one of the sharpest bettors around, my man. You're looking at the lines 24/7 like a true wise guy. But this one jumped out to me, and I know King's looking at this one. Maryland. Can the Terps cover this number? We all know how great Florida is. Again, the analytics love them, and they look pretty good. They look pretty good. But can they win by 6 or less? First thing I notice here is that both models are on Maryland. So our first model here, a recommended Green Star play. We basically have Maryland plus 5.1. So if we're getting 7, and Rhythm says it should be a 5-point game, that's a 2-point edge in favor of Maryland. This one is a use caution recommendation, but this one is a 5.3. So both of my models here are on Maryland. The other thing I like is that KenPom has Florida by 6. So if KenPom's got a 6-point game, Rhythm's got about a 5-point game, and we're getting 7, that excites me a little bit. The other thing that I like is the fact that this is a really big contrarian play. No one wants to play Maryland. Right now, only 25% of spread bets are on Maryland at DraftKings, and only 14% of bets are on Maryland at Circa. So it's a really good contrarian play, bet against the public. Yes, the public's had a good March Madness, which is not good for me as a contrarian bettor. But we can be against the public and be with these sharp recommendations from Rhythm. So I'm looking at Maryland in the points here. And again, this is a bit of an inflated line. Like, you did have some early money go with Florida. Florida opened as low as 5.5. But this is the thing you see in sports betting all the time. Opens 5.5. It's up to 7. I want to be with the line move. But let's say Florida wins by 6. The early sharps who got minus 5.5 win. I lose. I get a late 6.5 or 7. So sometimes it pays to just let that number move as far as it'll go and then hit that high water mark. And it's not exactly a sharp play, but a value play. So I'm looking at Terps plus 7. Next one I'm looking at, Arizona. Let's go to Arizona. Plus 9.5 against the Dukies. Again, Duke looks great as well, but can Arizona keep it close? Caleb Love, a lot of seniors, and pretty fundamental team here. I'm looking at Zona in the points. Both recommendations on Zona. We have a recommended Green Star play. Basically says it should be a 7-point, about a 7-point game here, 6.9. The other angle here is about a 7.8 play. So 7 or 8 points is predicted from Rhythm. KenPom has them losing by 8. Betting market, we're getting 9.5. There's another big contrarian play. No one wants to play Arizona. Arizona's only getting 39% of spread bets at DraftKings. And if you look at this one, it's kind of a line freeze. Open minus 9, 9.5. It really hasn't moved, even though everyone's playing Duke. So I'm looking at Arizona in the points in that one. Next one, Arkansas. I believe Arkansas is the highest or worst seeded team left, the 10 seed there. Both recommendations on Arkansas against Texas Tech. Now, they're not Green Star recommendations. They're caution flags. But we have first recommendation, Arkansas should lose by about 4 points. And then another one, once again, like 4.2. So we can get a 5.5 in the market. Rhythm's telling us it's a 4-point game. This is a contrarian play. Everyone's going Texas Tech. I'm keeping my eye on Arkansas on the points. Next one that jumped out to me, Michigan. Michigan is playing Auburn. Auburn, 1 seed, great team. But if you notice right off the bat, both recommendations on Michigan. 1 green star play. This is basically a 6.6 spread. So we can round that up to 7. And then the second one is about a 7-point spread. So basically around a 7-point game. KenPom has the Wolverines losing by 8, and we're getting 8.5. You might even be able to find a 9 or a 9.5. Like, there's a shop for the best line opportunity there with Michigan, because we have kind of different numbers across the sports betting marketplace. You always want to pick off the best number that you can, but Michigan is a team that, again, is providing some actionable value. Then the last one, Purdue. Purdue playing Houston. Again, another top-seeded team. Both recommendations, Purdue. We got a green star, Purdue, basically losing by, 5.7 points. And my second play here, my Josh model, 6.3 points. So either way, we'll round it to 6. We're getting 8.5 in the market. And KenPom's got them losing by 7. I noticed that Circa, pretty good split. If you look at Purdue, only about 40% of the tickets, a little more than 50% of the money. So Maryland, Arizona, Arkansas, Michigan, and Purdue. Those, as of right now, are your top discrepancy plays in terms of what the betting market is versus what Rhythm is predicting. So these are plays. You could play them now. You could wait. I'm going to be a little cautious. I want to see what develops between now and Thursday. I want to see where late money comes in. I want these percentages to be more lopsided. But either way, these are some games that I would recommend at least keeping an eye on, considering they would be your top recommendations based on discrepancy plays from Rhythm in the betting market. So that about does it for today's live stream. We talked a few games for tonight. Wet your whistle here for the Sweet 16. As always, I want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to sweat these live streams with me. I have so much fun kind of offering some insight into the way I do it. I'm not saying this is the only way or the best way, but this is the way that kind of I've used Rhythm to my advantage, and hopefully you can maybe pick off one or two things from a live stream to apply to your handicap, which can make you a successful sports bettor as well. But I always leave you guys with one thing. If I'm the professor and you're the student, you guys got homework. If you haven't done it yet, here I am. I always screw this up. Go to that QR code. Download Rhythm if you haven't done it yet. Find one person in your life to download Rhythm. Your dad, your nephew, your cousin, your colleague, your coworker, somebody in the group chat. Have them download Rhythm. Tell them March Madness, we got great predictions. Tell them MLB starts later this week, and we're going to have MLB predictions, which is going to be great. We got NBA as well. So Rhythm's got you locked and loaded. Tell a friend. Once you download it, if you haven't done it yet, also please give it a 5-star review. Make my buddy James Santor happy, as we're trying to rise up the charts. I think we're top 25 now for sports apps, which is just amazing. But continue to help us spread the word about Rhythm. And if you have any questions, we have the Discord channel. You can always reach out to Rhythm on Twitter. You can always hit me up on Twitter if you have any questions. Also, I'm at Josh_insights. So good luck, everybody. Hope you can cash some tickets tonight, and I will see you guys for another live stream, which the madness will be back. We got a couple days off. We're going to grind some NIT. I'll be back on Thursday for March Madness. So good luck, everyone. Have a fantastic Tuesday, and I will see you on Thursday for the next live stream. Adios.